What's going on, guys? This is Uche and Joko Sneaker Principal. And in this quick live session, I am going to respond to a question that I've been asked many times over the course of my career as a school leader. And that question is, why did I choose to do my education leadership training and certification through the Summer Principals Academy at Teachers College, Columbia University? If you know anything about education, you are required, especially specifically in becoming an administrator in public schools. I would say almost every state requires some level of certification or advanced degree, and definitely licensing to qualify you to run a school. Specifically, if you're working in public schools, I can't speak for all charter schools or private institutions, but definitely in public schools, there is some level of training that is compounded with certification and licensing that has to happen, and usually involves some kind of state test or something, or hours that you have to, internship hours, something that you have done to be qualified and to be a candidate for a school leadership position. And in New York State, of course, to become a teacher, you have to take a couple of exams, and then be licensed to be a teacher, then eventually tenured and all that. And the same thing happens with leadership. If you want to become an assistant principal, or you want to move into the school administration position full time, not the quasi, because in some places being a dean makes you an administrator, but in New York State it doesn't. You're just a teacher leader. You're moving in that direction, but you're really a teacher leader. So to become an administrator, meaning assistant principal or principal, you have to have what we call in New York State a SBL, a school building leadership license. And different states have different names for it. It's what it's called here in New York State. And there's also the SDL, the school district license, and which is not too far apart from the SBL. But to get any of this, you have to attend a graduate program for either the graduate degree or an advanced certification, or something else that's called an advanced. It's definitely not a degree, but I think it's like an advanced certification. And this is New York State. There's several of them. Several very, very good ones through the city college, through the CUNY system, the City University of New York system, through the SUNY, the State University of New York, through the private institutions, Hofstra and Fordham, and so many schools in New York City, then even throughout the state, University of Rochester, Cornell. Listen, any university that has a graduate program in anything in education generally does have a graduate degree in educational leadership. So, and then when we're talking about New York City, it's New York City. There's several institutions, there's several options, and they run the gamut of those that you probably never heard of, to those that are very, very popular, like the NYUs, the Columbia Universities, the Fordhams, institutions of that caliber. Then you also have a wide range of costs. As we all know, school is not cheap in America. Undergrad was not cheap, so definitely graduate school is going to become commensurate, if not more expensive in a lot of cases. And when we come to talking about why I chose Teachers College, which is the graduate college for education at Columbia University, there were several reasons. The first thing, first of all, is Columbia. It's Ivy League, and if you are, first of all, I want to say what's up to Carl Oliver. The question here is: Did they have you meditating at Spot? Yes. I'm going to get to that too. It's called the SET, self-awareness training, which is something very, very unique to Teachers College at the time. But I was in the program, well over a decade ago, and back then it was definitely weird. But I'm going to get to that. So we did do meditating at SPA, which is the acronym for Summer Principals Academy. So I picked it because, first of all, it's Columbia. It's like you get into Harvard and you have the chance to go to Harvard, unless you're competing with like Stanford, MIT, and some of the other top institutions. You're going to go with the best, right? Especially if it's within your reach. Carl, you said you were in there in '09, 09, 10. Wait a minute. 9, 10? 2009, 2010. Carl Oliver. Okay. Because I was, what year was I in? I was 10, 11. Was that 10, 11? I think I was 10, 11. So you were there the year before the year before I was. So yeah, we gotta talk, and if you have any comments, please type in any of your opinion of the program. So you were there right before I was. As the years go by, you start to do the math. Like, what year was I in there? Yeah. All right. So many moons ago, but yeah. So I picked it first of all for the prestige, and at that point in time, it was ranking top. I want to say it was top 5 in the country as far as educational leadership programs back then. It was definitely Vanderbilt was on that list, Stanford was on that list, Harvard was on that list, University of Wisconsin was on that list, and of course Columbia. I think Columbia was like 2 or 3 at the time. So me being, just being who I am, Nigerian, academic school is very, very important to me and my family, and be able to say that I attended one of the best schools in the country and arguably in the world, definitely I'm going to do that. But that's just the vanity side of it. That's the ego side of it. But the thing that I definitely that I really thought about, to be more specific as far as my decision to attend SPA versus other programs in the city that were just as prestigious within the city, and probably even in most cases cost less, was off the bat. I was a kid who grew up in, my family's West African. I was born in Nigeria, grew up in Los Angeles and Inglewood, California. There weren't too many people around where I grew up who were, how do I put it? There weren't too many people where I grew up who had attended those levels of, those caliber of institutions. There just wasn't. I mean, a lot of people that I knew who went to Harvard and Yale and schools like that were people I met along the way professionally, but no one in my hood, nobody in my circle of where I grew up went to spaces like that. So to have the opportunity to attend a school like that was definitely top of mind. I remember being in 11th grade and I found a copy of Forbes magazine, and on the cover it had listed the Forbes 500, the 500 richest people in America, and I was curious, but I've never seen that magazine. So as I flipped through it, I came across a brother that was in there and blew my mind, Reginald Lewis. If anyone who's familiar with Reginald Lewis, this man was the first human being to orchestrate the $1 billion leverage buyout of a corporation. And he did it, he did it under his own name. So when I saw him, I was fascinated, and I then found his book, his autobiography, and the book starts off about him telling the story of how the moments after he had won that deal, and him going to the Harvard Club, and in the book he talks about his experience being attending law school at Harvard. So in the back of my mind, I've always been fascinated with Ivy Leagues because of that book and because of Reginald Lewis. So of course, one of the things I learned from his book was about network, how important network is, how important name recognition is, and it all comes down to how you use it. If you go to an institution and you're just going there just because, that's one thing. If you're going there because you be able to leverage it for other purposes as your career is concerned, and that's what I was thinking. I wanted to not just attend any institution. I wanted to be in a space where I could really learn from the best of the best, and also establish relationships that I could leverage into the future, and then those who connected with me can leverage me in the future as well, which I have done. And so I chose that program for that purpose. The cost was stupid. I won't lie to you. It was ridiculous. I want to say it was well over $50,000 for, what was it, 14 months? Was it 14 months? 14. It was no, it wasn't 14 months. It ran 2 summers. It ran 2 summers. I want to say about 18 months. And $50,000 for that time frame was like crazy, and I committed to it, and I did that. But now let me tell you what I got out of the program, which was interesting. Like brother Oliver said in the comments, and let me see right here. It says, and I think he would agree with me. He said, before I say what I'm about to say, let me read what Brother Oliver says here. It says, I'll say one thing about the program is that the name brought the best people to the school, and the people brought the best out of each other, especially in the culminating school presentation. Exactly. So that was the other thing too for me. You know, I also knew I was going to be in the presence of some of the smartest people in the country. You know, and it's funny because at that moment in time, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm confident in what my skill set and what I've been able to do in my career as a school leader. No doubt. You never ever hear me say, "Oh, I sucked at it," or "I wasn't built for it." No. Going to that program and being in the presence, and that's the thing too about Teachers College, Columbia University, and the SPA program. It didn't just recruit people who wanted to lead schools in New York City. Most of the other programs in the city are focused on people who are in the city. I want to say that Columbia is probably the only school that I can think of that's doing a graduate program in educational leadership for principals in New York City that pulled from all around the country. You know, and those people went back to their localities and became school leaders in other roles. But I just remember sitting in classrooms and hearing from people who would become really, really good friends of mine. You know, in some cases, some of my best friends, and hearing about their experiences, you know, as teacher leaders in states across the country, you know, and sharing experiences that I was like, damn, you too? And but also hearing some of the smartest people, and I'm talking about there were people there who were sitting there for getting that master's degree in education, who already had advanced degrees. There was a couple of doctors in our class. You know, there was this one sister who was from Yale, and she had a doctorate from Yale, and there was a couple of them who were attorneys who went to, like, I'm talking about like they were like Harvard and Princeton, like, you know, Harvard and Yale and Princeton attorneys. Like they got their GDs from there, their JDs, and it just made me thinking to myself, like, whoa. Like, you know, in the beginning I was super intimidated because I was like, I don't want to say nothing stupid in front of these people who got doctorates, and, you know, and I'm like asking people, should I call you Dr. So-and-so? They're like, no, just call me by my first name. It's not a big deal. In my mind, it was a big deal because, again, you know, I did attend a very reputable undergraduate program at the University of Rochester, upstate New York. And then I had a master's degree that was paid for by New York City, by New York City Department of Education. I went to Mercy College, which is a very strong school. But this was my first time in the space where I walked into and I was like, whoa, do I even belong here? But they pushed our thinking. We pushed each other's thinking. Once I realized that they bled just like me, and they went to the bathroom just like me, and they were just normal human beings, and the only difference was our personal identities, but we were not limited by what we could do with our brains. It was amazing. One of the things I thought that was really cool, excuse me, was the fact that the program doesn't end with a most graduate programs. If you're doing a doctorate, you end with a dissertation, and if you're doing a master's level program, you're ending with some kind of master's level thesis. But here we, because it was a program for educational leadership, our master's level thesis was really a new school presentation. We had to design a school from scratch. Everything from the budgeting, from the financing to the curriculum, to the structure, the mission vision, you know, and then have a very clear, you know, multi-year plan of having the school established. It wasn't just you're going to design a program and we're going to talk about it. No, you're going to present you're going to design a program and present it to the powers that be in New York City that have the authority to say, yes, let's build this school. And it's interesting because a lot of my classmates, quite a few of them, their schools became reality. You know, my team and our school didn't become a reality because we designed a all boys boarding school. So New York City does not have boarding schools, period. And we designed because we believed that there was a need, and I still do believe there's a need for single gender boarding schools for boys that's public and free that addresses, this issue that still happened to this day. This $1 million blocks, these blocks in New York City, where it's costing over $1 million a year to incarcerate the young men on those blocks. So our question, our thesis, our hypothesis is, if we're able to take those fundings and find those young men at risk well ahead of them entering those circumstances that would put them in a position of losing their freedom. It doesn't cost $1 million to send a kid to school per year. And we can probably save more kids with that money, sending young men to a space that could really feed and develop them. And this is a level of thinking, and we interviewed everybody. We were on. Listen, let me tell you how deep this got for us. At least on my team, we spoke to Cornell West. We spoke to what was this brother's name? Lamont Hill. Is that his name? Lamont Hill. He's a contributing. I know he was contributor on Fox, and I've seen him on CNN a couple of times. He rolled on campus. We saw him. We hummed him up in the corner. We're like, we want to present our idea. What do you think? And we had the capacity in amongst us to really develop this thing. We presented it, and listen, when we did our presentation, there was not a single dry eye in the room. It's just that what we presented was something that the city just didn't have the capacity to make happen. But that's a level of work we did. And one thing I would tell you this is that the work that was demanded of us was Ivy League caliber. They were not playing. We worked, and in some instances, I remember telling my teammates, like, "Are we doing a doctoral program? Because these people here are bugging." But I loved it because they pushed our thinking, and we were able to do amazing things in those spaces. And I'll tell you, to this day, the most intellectually stimulating space I've had in my whole entire academic life, post my elementary and secondary school space, was those months I spent at TC at SPA. Let me see right here. Brother Oliver added, I had some dude that worked for the Obama administration. There was a dude with 3 masters already from MIT and Harvard. Yeah, I'm telling you. See, listen, this is what Brother Oliver is saying right here, and I'm telling you right now, that's how it was in our class. We had people who were there who were literally, when I say the best of the best, I'm gonna tell you right now, into what it felt like. This is gonna sound really stupid, but for those of you of a certain age, do you remember the movie Top Gun? And when they brought all those fighter pilots to Miramar, and Tom Cruise had done that crazy stunt in his character Maverick, over the Indian Sea or Caspian Sea, wherever that joint was, with the Russian MiGs, and he walked in thinking to himself like, "Yo, I'm the man." Then all of a sudden there were all these other pilots who were just as good and had their stories as well. That's what it was, And the best part of SPA, and I got to throw that in there, was I wasn't a minority. Meaning, like racially speaking, there was a good balance of races and genders and perspectives and faiths in there. There was the hijab in there. We had those who were a Christian faith. We had Muslim students. We had Jewish students. We had a plethora of people from different regions around the country. So when we came in and we talked about education, what was happening with children, we got such a diverse perspective. There were Dominicans there were Puerto Ricans there were Haitians there were Nigerians there. And it's funny, I wasn't even the only Nigerian, but the thing was great because we didn't know each other, but we became family. A lot of people in that group I've lost touch with over the years, and I mean like face to face, but I still see them from time to time on social media, and I'll shoot them a holler. A couple of them are actually our colleagues were colleagues of mine here in New York City, and they're phenomenal school leaders. And back then we were just deans and teacher leaders, and we were just trying to figure out our futures. We were dreaming about where we would be all these years later, yeah. So one thing that was brought up earlier by Brother Oliver that I gotta definitely talk about. He asked about the meditation. Let me see if I find that question again. this. Did they have you meditating at spa? Yes, they did. I remember when I saw the I still have the book somewhere. I think it's in the basement. There is a what was it called? So back then, the founder and director of the program was Dr. Richards, Craig Richards. I think now he's in New Orleans. There's now a spa in New Orleans. I think it's at Tulane. Am I wrong about that? Listen, I apologize if I just put Tulane in the wrong state in the wrong city, but I know it's there in New Orleans, and so he's the founder, and I remember he gave us the book, he gave us his book. It had pictures of rabbits in there. If you attended spa, you know what I'm talking about. The rabbit men, they're in this book, and it was a book he self-authored about self-awareness, and it took me a while to buy into this. I was like, why are we meditating? Some people were really creeped out by it, as far as just being asked to sit and meditate. Because back then, meditation, when you heard the word meditation, you were thinking, Far East. You were thinking like yoga. You were thinking about, you had this image in your mind of like Buddhist monks. And that's what I had. Meditation was not something that was in alignment with the way I was raised or the things that I had experienced as far as faith was concerned. And but I rolled with it because I was like, listen, I'm happy just to be here. And every morning, I think it was about a little bit under an hour, we would be in this auditorium, and we would do different exercises, self actualization, meditations, breathing exercises. And as the summer went on, because the thing with the program, and I'll explain this afterwards, the structure of the program. This is how it was for me when I was there. As the summer goes on, because the core of the face-to-face classes happen during the summer. During the school year, we're all working remotely, for the most part, working asynchronously, and we have assignments to submit and things of that nature. But during the summertime, it's just straight through sunrise to sunset. We're taking courses, and it's super accelerated. So as you can imagine, it becomes super stressful and exhausting, and to have that space to breathe and center yourself and collect yourself, and not only that, to also understand how to self-regulate. It was inspiring, and I took a lot of that with me after I was done with the program. And the funny thing about it is, who would have thought that all these years later, that mindfulness and self-care and breathing and yoga and these things have not become almost common practice in most of our schools, at least here in New York City. And I'm still talking like I'm the sitting principal. I partnered with an organization called Brain Power Wellness in two of my schools that I led, that would come in there and literally do what we did at SPA and just do it with the kids and do it with the staff. And so it's funny that I look back and I'm like, wow, Dr. Richards and the program he created and that team, they were so forward thinking that here we are today, and it's norm. It's not weird anymore. It shouldn't have been weird back then, but it just wasn't what we were used to. So that meditative space, self-awareness training, SAT, was valuable to me, and to the point where it's become part of my practice to this day. And the way the program is structured is you start in the summer, June, and you're running all the way through for I think through the month of June into the month of right into the end of July. But you're going straight through. What is that? 6 to 8 weeks. It's been a long time, but you're running through the summer, and you're taking classes, multiple classes all day long. You have time to work with your team. I mean, you're going hard. There is very little room for shenanigans beyond that work. Then when the school year happens, then you're doing for at least for New York State, it's 450 hours, internship hours, which I think they make it work for every candidate working in the program, regardless of where they are. And from there, you come back for another summer and you do it all over again. And after the second summer, you run through the fall, and then you're done. And it's intense. It's super intense. But I'm telling you, and listen, I'm going to share this. It was super intense. And I am an A-type personality, especially when it comes to schoolwork. And I won't lie. I have my moments, and I've apologized to my team members where I was just being an ass. Because my patience gets wears really thin when I'm around people, the same people for way too long, and then we're also dealing with the emotions of being kind of like quarantined in school over the summer, or putting all this work in, and yeah, yeah, I had my moments. And listen, SAT training, that SAT training came very, very important for me. But also everything that they planned out, everything that we did there was very intentional, because I felt even the stress of the work and the intensity of it prepared me to be a leader. It prepared me in my school. There were many times I would pause and I would stop and gather myself and to breathe and once in a while reflect on, like, wow, how is this so aligned with what we did in that program? Let me see here. Brother Oliver says it was really crazy that we spent that time in the era of data-driven practices. Yeah, yes. Data-driven practices, and teach like a champion. I remember, man, and meditation was literally the first thing you did each day. That crazy. And now, the federal government, is spending millions of dollars to make sure we have SEL and mindfulness practices in schools. I mean, it's crazy. Like, they were ahead of the game. It's funny because I have friends of mine, when I would tell them about self-awareness training and meditation, they're like, what? Listen, the word cult came out from several of my peoples who were like, what do you mean y'all meditating? And now it's normal. It is the way. It's not even the flavor of the day. It's the norm of society. Take a breath. Go sit and find yourself a corner and sit in some grass and take a deep breath and breathe, before you have an aneurysm. That's like the way we're living now. Back then, it was so uncommon. But yeah, and but again, it was an incredible experience. And I'll tell you this: the three most memorable moments of my SPA career, of my time at SPA, at Teachers College, at Columbia University, was the first day walking into that room and feeling like an imposter. Like, I was like, damn, whoa, like, do I even belong here? I want to listen. When I walked out of my interview, I was told before I walked out of my interview for admissions that I was in, and I thought Dr. Richards was lying. I was like, this man is punking me. I'm looking for Ashton Kutcher. I'm like, why would he mess with me? Like, like, dude, just tell me I didn't get in. It's okay. I'm just this black boy from LA, like, like this African kid. Like, rejection is okay. I'm used to it. And when he told me I got in, I was like, I didn't believe it. When I got the letter, I think I slept with that letter. I think I slept with it. I kept on reading it word by word, making sure I didn't miss where's the I'm sorry, or the, unfortunately due to, like, I was looking for those words, like it was magic in invisible ink. And but however, that first day when we all met, I looked at people's eyes, and it's funny because everybody looked the same. They all looked like, wow, we are here. And then the second most memorable moment was standing on that stage to present our new school design. I was sweating. I was anxiety ridden, but I was confident. Like, what we had designed made sense. We had the data to support it. And it's funny because Bilal talks about data-driven practices. That was at the core of what we did. So when we walked in, it's funny, when we walked in to present, and we got the round of applause, people in the audience crying because we had a very, very powerful presentation. That feeling didn't leave. It was almost like, I think all of us, it felt like our seal of approval that you are ready to go lead. And that's how I led all my schools. Data driven, and very, very mindful and very, very intentional about everything that I did. Thinking about my staff, thinking about my students, thinking about my families. I would often start off meetings with connections, making people kind of like reflect and breathe. These are things that I did, that just became norm, and I still do to this day. I'm now in the private sector in educational technology, and I still do a lot of the same things with my team right now. But the great thing about it is it's not foreign to them because it's part of what most spaces are doing now. And then the last and most memorable moment, and there's so many of them, but the one that stand out was graduation day. And I'll tell you why. To be in that powder blue, that sky blue, that Carolina blue, you know, um, cap and gown, to make that walk from from the church. They had us at the what church is that? I forget the name of the church, but it's right across from the campus, from the main quad, and to walk into that quad and it's filled with blue, like everybody was graduating, and after every department went through, and it was so exciting. I mean, it was long, but it was so exciting. And then at the end, they presented us as graduates, and they played Sinatra's New York, New York. And man, listen, as a kid, I was a movie fan. Like I used to watch every movie, The Rap Hack, Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr. What's his name? Dean. I forget his name, but so when that song came on, I felt like, whoa, I never quite fully felt like a New Yorker because I grew up in LA. At that moment, I was like, okay, I claim it. I claim New York as my newfound territory. I planted my flag. I was like, this is where I'm from. But the crazy thing was the DJ or whoever had to play that song. Once they, New York, New York, next thing you know, and they were playing Jay-Z's. And was it Empire State? Is it Empire State of Mind? I'm just jacking that up. But they played Jay-Z's version. When I said everybody, I mean, you could hear the crowd, word by word, verbatim. Everybody in that space was reciting the words to Jay-Z song, and I was like, man, this is crazy. Not only am I graduating from Columbia, they own some hood stuff right here too, and man, and from that point, I've had a stellar career. I've led 2 schools. I've been in multiple fellowships. I just finished a fellowship at Teachers College with the Con Fellows program. I was a Con ally 13 years prior, and I've just been fortunate. I've been blessed, and a lot of it has to do with maybe it might not necessarily be the fact that I attended Teachers College, and like that maybe that on my resume maybe that has not made a difference. But the confidence that I walked out of that space with, like I felt like if I was able to do what I did there, you can't tell me nothing. Even now, and I'm very respectful. And I would say I do my best to move with humility, but a lion can be respectful and be humble and move with humility, but a lion is still a lion. And that's what I got. That's what I got from Teachers College, and that's what I got from Columbia. And it just dawned on me: the mascot of Columbia University is a lion. So yeah. So if you're thinking about graduate programs, there's a lot of factors that you have to think about, especially when you look at the graduate programs for school leadership. But my advice is not necessarily to go to apply to the Summer Principals Academy or to attend Teachers College or Columbia University or any of the other schools like that. My advice is you figure out what your why is, what you're looking for. I was looking for network. I was looking for to be pushed. I was looking for, I won't lie, I was looking for validation. I wanted to know that I was just as good as people were telling me I was, And then once I figured out for myself that I was more than capable, I didn't just sit on that degree. And I didn't it's funny. I haven't had that degree on my wall in any of my offices in over. I think my first year as a principal was the first time I actually had. Was the only year that I had my degree, my Columbia degree on the wall. After that, it was never on the wall. I didn't need that to be on the wall, because I knew for myself that what I accomplished and what I was capable of doing. And so that's my advice. Make sure you go to this is not my advice, but this is what I have to say to you. Pick a program that fits what you're looking for, and also do understand if you choose to go to TC or Teachers College, this one Principals Academy, the cost is crazy. But for me, what I've gotten out of it cannot be traded. I would never trade that for anything. And here I am now in a whole new space, vice president of a edtech company, and I have to say that Columbia had a big part to do with it. To establish my confidence, putting me into a network. And what are the chances that the CEO of the company that I work for is also a Columbia graduate? And he went to Columbia after a few years after I did, but still, to be in that circle is very, very important. I think it's very important for us to realize that we should never do anything just because. Be very intentional what you do with your career and how you move, and anything you do, because it does matter. It really does matter. Y'all, I just wanted to share that with you, and hopefully this is helpful to someone out there. Again, this is Uche Njoku, proud, proud, P-R-O-U-D, proud alumni of the Summer Principals Academy at Teachers College, Columbia University. And to all my brothers and sisters from the 010-11 cohort, much love, much blessings. And till next time. All right. Peace. And also all alumni and brother Oliver, thank you so much. And definitely want to link up with you. Do me a favor, shoot me an email. Let me put my email if you're still watching. Let's chop it up. Let's type it into the chat real quick. All right. Y'all, be well.